Okay, I wanted to tell a little story that I think is quite fitting for the times that we are in astrologically. So, the sun just moved into Aquarius. We had a big transit of Rahu and Ketu moving into Pisces and Virgo tropically, and Saturn is in Pisces, Venus is in Pisces, and Neptune is in Pisces. And Venus and Saturn are in a Graha Yudha, a planetary war right now. And then later, Venus is going to retrograde and go into war again with Saturn. So that will have all kinds of crazy mundane effects, but there's actually a lot of, like I said in the Patreon forecast, there's a lot of actually like kind of threats or danger to the Brahmin cast because it's happening in a Brahmin water sign. But I wanted to give a little story that I think everyone could appreciate at this time. Because Pisces is a sign of surrender. It's the most spiritual sign of the zodiac. Jaimini confirms this, and so does Parashara. It is the last sign. It's a sign of enlightenment. And it is a sign of surrender and letting go. And Venus, the planet of bhakti, yoga, and devotion, is exalted there, showing that at the end of the day, devotion is the highest thing. Even Yogananda, the Kriya yoga guru who I love, he would tell his disciples, if you could only have one thing, meditation or devotion, it'd be better to have devotion. But together, they're an unbeatable combination. So even Yogananda, this guy who was all about meditation, that was his path, he himself confirmed that devotion is even more important than that. So here's a story from Meher Baba, Avatar Meher Baba, who only really wanted devotion from his followers, or love. And because that's the thing is when you get caught up in with K2 moving into Virgo, you're going to see a lot of people, oh, I do such and such kriyas, and I do this type of practice, and I do this insane health routine, and this makes me better than others, so I don't, blah, blah, blah. And you get caught up in all this rajasic egotism rather than just surrender. So here's a little story. Okay, so there's a story of the great murderer, and this story is told in all kinds of the underground yogic traditions. I first heard it from the Avatar Meher Baba world, and he would tell people this story when they would worry about their karma and be like, oh, I don't have the karma to get enlightened or have a good master or do this or that. And that can be such a trap, just like how in the West we like to blame the devil made me do it. You can say the same thing with my karma made me do it. And a lot of us astrology lovers are guilty of that. So, myself included. Okay, so the great murderer, he had murdered 99 people in his life. He was powerful, fiery person. And after murdering 99 people, he had a moment of clarity. Yeah, he had this moment of clarity, and he was all of a sudden just so dejected and so hurt and so lost. Like, what have I done? It's like his karma had just exhausted itself after those 99 murders. But he was, of course, like, he has strong willpower. He's a murderer. He can murder 99 people. So he was like, what can I do now to change this? What to do? Like most fiery willpower-based people are. And he went to a Sadguru. Some people say it was the Buddha that he went to. Some versions of the story. So he went to the Buddha, or he went to a Sadguru and was like, okay, what can I do? Like to balance out this karma, I want to spend the rest of my life making up for this. And, I'm sure he didn't even expect that he would get like any spiritual rewards or anything. He just wanted to kind of balance out what he had just done and, kind of pay off that karma. And so this Sadguru told him to go, and go to these certain woods, this certain forest, and go and sit there and just repeat the name of God, Ram, and just say Ram's name over and over and over for the rest of his life. So he didn't know what else to do, and he's pretty hopeless. So he went to those woods, and he sat down where he was told to sit, and he just started repeating the name of Ram, the name of God. Years passed by. All of a sudden, years and years go by. In that woods, he wasn't taking any food, so people would go and offer him and give him alms like they do in India. And he was so respected, seeing his penance, that people would go frequently to give alms and as part of their good karma. So then a path became created in the woods. And then the path ended up going further to the next village from those woods too, because it was just what you would expect. And meanwhile, all the years are going by and he's just saying Ram's name and just sitting there and perhaps eating whatever he needs to eat that is offered to him, enduring the elements and everything with that fiery willpower. And then as the years go by, that path, that little jungle path, becomes more of a road. It becomes a bigger and bigger path. It becomes a bigger and bigger road. And he's still sitting there in the same spot. And he's not even moving. So the road kind of goes around him. And he's in the center of it because the road was created for him, basically. And so after a while, this is like a major road now, but everybody who goes through here knows about him. And so they go around him, or they're just not, going to force this guy who's clearly been here a long time to move. But then one day there's a charioteer going through, and he's this pompous, royal, dignified minister, and he goes through in his chariot, and this guy's just sitting there, this bum, just sitting there in the center of the road meditating. And he's like, yelling at him, move. And he won't move, and he's in samadhi. He's not even recognizing him. And so then eventually the charioteer gets out of the chariot and gets his whip, and he goes and he whips him. And he's like, move, you know what I mean? Just so superior and so pompous. And he's whipping this man. And so once he whips him, the guy comes out of samadhi. And the murderer comes out of samadhi and sees he's being whipped by a man. Instantly, he snaps back and reverts back into his murdering ways and murders the man right there. And he just murders him. Boom. Done. Dead. I'm sure he was quite in shock and quite surprised at what had come over him. But I'm sure he didn't know what else to do. So he just sat back down and started saying Ram's name again. And that's when he got liberated. That's when he got enlightened. Full liberation of consciousness. You might be asking why? How? Huh? It just so happens to be that this charioteer who was whipping him and forcing him to move out of the way, he was on his way to the next town over. And he was going to deliver a message to the next town to have 100 innocent soldiers, innocent captive civilians be put to death. And they were all going to be hung and put to death because they thought they were guilty of something, but they weren't. And so this murderer, by snapping back into his old Sanskaric habits, his old ways, and murdering that guy, he murdered 100 people. That was his 100th murder. And in so doing, in that one murder, he also saved 100 lives by murdering that guy and keeping him from being able to go deliver that message to get them killed. So he had somehow murdered 100 people and saved 100 people. So his sanskaras were finally balanced. That's why when he sat back down, he said Ram's name, and only one saying of it, he got enlightened and got liberated. All the years of meditation had purged and had cleansed all his other sanskaras. It was only those heavy sanskaras of the murder that were left. And you see, by him just surrendering and following the guru's advice, the guru, the sadguru, or the Buddha knew exactly where to put him to go on exactly what path he needed to go on to get liberated, even as a murderer. So you see, it's all about just surrender to the divine and surrendering to the guru if you're lucky enough to find a true sadguru. This does not mean that you should surrender to some guy teaching you yoga class down the street who's not enlightened, but following a true enlightened master and truly surrendering to them, you have nothing else to worry about in your life. Just follow that and do that the best you can. And if you don't have a guru, well, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So you just have to ready yourself until you attract the right guru. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I like it a lot. And sometimes when I've told that story, a lot of times I've told that story to people and they just don't get it. And they're like, what? It's like crickets. Other people, it's a life-changing story. So make what you will of that. The man didn't know any of this, The man who was the murderer, he didn't know any of this, He was only saved because the master knew, the Buddha knew. So if you just can obey implicitly to a true master, you end up winning, because whereas your conceptions of right and wrong are limited, the the master knows all and will always give you what is best for you. And if you don't have a master, like most people on the planet don't even have the merit to have a true spiritual master, you have to just honor what you have around, or you could honor a deity or honor the God, the divine, like Meher Baba. I don't know Meher Baba myself, but I have a resonance and a connection with him, and so I think of him or just tune into him and he's there. Or you could think of Yogananda or Yukteswar or Babaji or Ramana Maharshi or all these other great masters, or just a deity or something. But the best way to cure the Rajasic guna of Virgo, which thinks it's fixing things and thinks it's getting clean, but it's really getting dirty, the best way to deal with that is just surrender, you know? And yeah, that's my best advice for Ketu in Virgo and Rahu in Pisces when it comes to just natal charts. Ketu and Virgo people actually get dirty by trying to stay clean all the time. And they need to just immerse themselves and embrace Pisces. And that's when they actually get clean. Okay, thanks you guys. Enjoy this. Jai Baba.